Hi everyone, I hope you're doing great. So, I received with great joy in my heart the news that the middle belt of Nigeria no longer identifies with the North. In other words, the Middle Belt Forum has now become a crystallized, formidable regional group or regional union, which is amazing. And this is what I've always been praying for. According to Dr. Dogo Isua, who broke the news, he talked about how that the colonials actually, joined them with the core north. And remember, the core north is where you find the real overlords of the colonial masters, the guys who actually are the faces of the colonial masters in post-colonial Nigeria, the Fulanis, the Hausa Fulanis, they are in the core north. But you see, what they did was that they had to bring in the middle belt so that the middle belt can always do their dirty jobs, and the big guys who are the core north Hausa Fulani guys will always take the glory and then turn around and oppress the people they use for their dirty jobs. That's why during the Biafran War, it was the middle belters who did much of the killing that took place in Biafra land, plus the foreigners who they brought in as well to come and kill. This is actually fact. There's nobody who can dispute that. But you see, it's not only that's not the only dirty job they'd use the middle belt to do. There have been so many things that they use the middle belt to do, and whenever it is done, they take the glory and then they oppress the people as well. So recently, you've seen how that the same so-called North had sat down with little to no criticisms over the loss of farmlands and loss of ancestral homelands and loss of lives and everything going on in the middle belt of Nigeria. And the middle belters are predominantly Christians. And these are people who have done everything to keep the North together. But look how they are losing their brothers and sisters and losing their loved ones and losing their lands and becoming refugees in their own land. And the so-called Northern Elders Forum never ever said anything about it. And so the guys suddenly just got jolted back into consciousness, and they're like, how long are we going to be fools? And suddenly they decided, you know what, we just have to be what we were before the colonials took us to the north. And if you ask me, I would say this is one of the greatest news of 2019. You know why? Because I just put out a video to explain to us how that the only way we can have freedom is when we unbundle the satanic amalgamation that was put together without the consent of the indigenous peoples by the colonial masters solely for their own selfish aim. Everybody knows that Nigeria was amalgamated not because they wanted us to be together or to stay together and love one another, but because they wanted to turn Nigeria from nation states into a plantation, moving Nigeria from a country to a company. That's why I always tell people Nigeria is not a country, it's a company. There are so many historians who have confirmed this. And apart from even the historians, look, I don't know how many of you saw recently the testimony of Abdul Rashid Maina. Remember Maina, the guy that they said he stole billions of naira pension funds? The guy eventually called a guy who had a radio show, I think it's called Ordinary President or something, and then he began to expose the amount of money, the trillions and trillions upon trillions, billions of dollars stashed in different accounts in Nigeria. And then he said that these monies go offshore. They use this offshore means to send it abroad. Okay? Who is it that they are sending all this money to? How much appetite can one Nigerian have to eat all this money? This is the means by which the colonials siphon all our monies. And so they leave just little things for the government. And that's why everybody is scrambling. When you give money to the governors take it as their own, because that money is not even up to a fraction of what is made. It is not even enough to do anything. That's why Nigerians are living are living as paupers in the midst of plenty. This is what is going on. The colonials cannot afford to let us go. because they know that the moment we unbundle the amalgamated satanic unit, that our people, the indigenous peoples, will be free. Do you know how much tax they collect from Lagos and send to Abuja? Do you know how much money is made out of our eastern region, where you call Niger Delta and southeast and south or whatever you call it, the eastern region of Nigeria? Do you know how much money is made from there? So much money is made on daily basis, and the people live like paupers. This is ongoing as I speak. That's why over 80% of the oil wells in eastern Nigeria are owned by people who live in northern Nigeria, because those core northerners are the faces of the colonial master in Nigeria. They are the people who operate all that secret accounts where trillions are stashed for the colonial masters. Even when they are not stashing those trillions, they are stealing it outrightly, and they are sending it to Switzerland to go and put it in Swiss banks. They go to abroad and put the money. And these are guys who want to teach us about democracy and how to be decent people. But they are the ones who receive all the money stolen out of Nigeria. And you are not asking yourself a question. We are all in bondage together. And the only solution, which I have talked about in the video I just put out, is for us to unbundle amalgamation by crystallizing into strong, formidable regional units. In eastern Nigeria, where they came and brought the evil thing called Southeast, we are one eastern Nigeria, and we are already building the bridges that were broken. We are forming our group now. We are crystallizing into what we used to be. Everybody needs to go back to what they were pre-colonial days. We were regions that thrived very well before evil befell us. And this is what has to happen, because their so-called amalgamation had expired already. Even though there was no basis for it, we should not even have waited 100 years, which I explained in my videos. But now it has come and gone. And they want to also continue to hold on to it by force. That's why they are sending you Fulanis. But you know what we need to do? On our own, by the time we begin to crystallize into regional groups now, formidable regional groups, we will break it. Look at what Benue has, what Middle Belt has done. That is the way to go. If Oduduwa, we also know that they are being lied to when they are being told that, look, you are now part of the power brokers in Nigeria. It is a lie. If it is not a lie, why is it that Yoruba nation now has become like the playground of the terrorists? Why did they allow it to happen? You need to wake up and know that they are lying to you. Begin to crystallize into your own formidable regional union. I do not know too much about Yorubas, but the little I know is that if the Yorubas wake up and decide they want to do something, no hell can stop them. Why don't you do it now? Because this is the time. Crystallize and begin to move towards Oduduwa Republic, while Easterners are pushing their own. We are doing our own business. Don't worry about us. We are doing it. We are coming together. You will not hear Southeast and South ever again in just a short while from now. We are working. So Middle Belt too has now pulled out. If we isolate the enemy, we starve the enemy to death and kill the enemy. That's the best way to do it. So don't be unnecessarily emotional. Our people get unduly emotional when we talk about breaking up Nigeria. No, we have grown to love one another. Ask anybody who knows about me in the United States of America. I fought for Nigeria in America more than anyone I can think of. I drove myself to more than 35 states in the United States of America trying to get some Nigerians who are doing good so I can put it out there and change the narrative that Nigerians are criminals and crooks and fraudsters. I did that on my own. Nobody paid me to do that. I've talked about in one of my videos how that I stood the ground and began to do PR for Nigeria in America when the underwear bomber guy, Abdul Muttalab, when the thing happened and everybody was just looking down on Nigerians in America. I went ahead. I was meeting CNN. I was doing everything I could to just, change the image of Nigeria in America. And while I was doing it, Shaka Sali of Voice of America heard about me and called me and put me on the seat and interviewed me. I was viewed around the whole world by millions of people. I did not call him for interview. He just heard what I was doing and called me. You can go check it. Go to the archives of Voice of America TV. You will see that I was on that TV talking about Nigeria, speaking for the good of Nigeria, because I love everybody who is in Nigeria. I love the Yoruba, the Hausa, I love the Igbo, my people, I love everybody. But guess what? If we become too emotional that we don't know the source of our problem, we are all going to be buried in that problem, which is now threatening to swallow all of us. So now that we know that the solution is to unbundle the amalgamation that brought us together by force without the consent of our indigenous peoples, the best thing is to unbundle it, go and form your own regional union, so that the thing will collapse and die. When the amalgamation has been killed, we can now decide, okay, Yoruba, Middle Belt, Oduduwa, Biafra, we now decide, okay, why don't we come around the table and see whether we can form a union, the kind that United Arab Emirates has in place today? Do you know that United Arab Emirates is made up of Dubai and so many other countries functioning independently? That is what you call true federation. We don't have it in Nigeria. What you have in Nigeria is a unitary company. It's not even a government. It's just a gangster regime that is, it will never stop, it will never end, as long as the amalgamation treaty, which I call an evil covenant, as long as it remains, you will never be free. I will never be free. Our unborn children will never be free. So we are not fighting to break Nigeria because we hate one tribe or hate the other tribe. No, we are asking to break and unbundle the amalgamation because we want freedom, so that the indigenous peoples can breathe, so that they can now begin to see how much money they make. When you listen to Maina and see the kind of trillions they are stashing away, it confirms what the former president of Gambia said when he said that nearly every single country in Africa that has natural resources, that none of them gets up to 5% of the resource of what they make out of their natural resources, especially those of us who have oil in our land. He said the colonial masters take all that money by all kinds of satanic treaties that they entered into with these nations, because that's why they always want to be the one to place a president in power. The moment you become an independent thinker as a president, they kick you out, they set you up, and they destroy you. This is what they did to Jonathan. Today they have put their man in power, and they want to make sure that he stays in power. If we don't unbundle this amalgamation, we will all remain in this useless dungeon forever. May God forbid. Let us wake up, my people. When we have broken the unit, the amalgamated rubbish, we can come together and agree to form a union. America is a union. United Arab Emirates is a union. There are many nations that are existing as unions. Nigeria is not a union. Nigeria is worse than a union. Nigeria is a slave camp, and we need to end it so that we can now begin. If the grain of seed does not fall to the ground and die, a new does not come. It is our time to kill the evil union so that a decent good one will come out. May God help us.